Oh man. Oh boy. Here we go. I just got done rewatching a film for my 31 days of horror movie reviews, and this is a movie that I watched so long ago I barely remembered it, but I decided to rewatch When a Stranger Calls. Now, this is the 2006 remake. I've never seen the original, so I can't compare it. I won't do a comparison, but this movie, it was a movie, and it's painfully obvious now why I didn't remember this film the first time around. This was directed by Simon West. We meet Camilla Bell, who is an actress that I've seen in quite a few things. She plays Jill. She's this girl that has this dilemma. Remember being in high school when, at least when I was in high school, I guess very much like this girl, we had flip phones. And the moment when she takes out her flip phone is going through the flip phone, I not only did I feel old, because I remembered, I remember that being like my first phone. But you see that she went over her minutes. I was just like, oh yes, I remember this time period in my life where you had to worry about minutes. You know, if you used your phone or if you texted on your phone before a certain time, then your bill would run up. And it would be known how much of your phone you're using, and it would be this whole ordeal. You'd have to wait until after 8 or 9 o'clock, or if it was a prepaid phone, you had to buy minutes. Just, wow. That took me down a weird rabbit hole, but she's being grounded because she used too much of her minutes. Her father is played by Clark Gregg, Phil Coulson from the Avengers movies. This cast, wait until we get to more names in this cast list. And I just was like, really? That person's there? So in order for her to pay up some of this minutes that she spent, her father takes her to this, seems like a rich family's home, and she has to babysit for the night. And at first I was confused because I couldn't tell what time it was. I thought this was like immediately after high school, and so I thought it was like 3 or 4 o'clock. And when she gets there, they're already put to bed at like 3 o'clock. And then after a while I realized that, oh, it must be later on in the night. Maybe she got there by like 7 or 8. Either way, it was so awkward for how long she's babysitting, quote unquote babysitting, and she never checks in on the kids, at least until way late in the movie. You don't even see the kids or the fact that there are kids there. I thought the twist was going to be that there are no kids and that this was some secret cult that kidnaps babysitters because they don't really have kids. But no, that's not where we went. And Jill gets a bunch of phone calls randomly from a creeper, and he's stalking her and he's saying weird things, and we're off to the races. Now, I'm going to say right off the bat, this movie sucks. This movie sucks hard balls. It was terrible. It was boring. That's one of the biggest crimes that you can do in a horror film. I've said it before. I'll continue to say it with every boring horror movie that I see. I can't believe that you could mess up this premise. It's a fairly simple premise, and it shouldn't be too hard to create tension and to create a character to care for. I didn't give two shits for this Jill girl. And I should like her. It's not even so much of like, oh, I don't care about her because she ran up her phone bill. Or, oh, I don't care about the drama with her and her... Is it her boyfriend? Or is it just a guy that she likes? He apparently kissed her best friend at a party and she's pissed about it. Like, who cares about this high school drama bullshit? This is the type of writing? This is what you're doing to tell me who this main character of your story is? Wow! There's nothing else that we could have done. There's nothing else that we could have created as far as just her as a person and who she is and what her goals and aspirations are. I mean, I know it's just a dumb horror movie. I'm not saying that they should have done a whole lot more, but more than this was bare bones, the laziest setup or introduction of a main character I think I've ever seen. And it doesn't help that Camilla Bell is not good in this movie. Now, I've seen her be good in other things. She was a child actress, and she still acts to this day. So, believe me, it's not her. It's not her lacking the skills in order to create an interesting character, but she's just dull, and she's just boring, and she's just blah. And I'm trying to give her credit. I'm trying to say that, hey, maybe it was the writing or the directing or this and that. But there's also moments where she's on the phone with the stalker and her delivery isn't great either. So it is a little bit of her as far as when she answers the phone and she's like, "It's you, isn't it? Oh, don't hang up. You gotta tell me what's going on. Oh, no. Oh, it's just..." And I think I used more life and energy than poor Camilla Bell did here. Now, as far as the other cast goes, the best friend, the girl who I guess is a bitch, I mean, she says herself that she's a bitch, is played by Katie Cassidy. And I've seen Katie Cassidy in so much stuff, but especially in the mid to late 2000s, she was in a decent amount of horror movies where she gets killed. Like, I don't know who her agent was or who the person that provided her name for certain horror films. She was in so much just random shit. She's only in like 2 scenes in this movie, but she's here to be an unlikable character to get killed off. What a shock. I was more surprised, though, to see a young Tessa Thompson. Yes, Valkyrie, Westworld, whatever you want to say that she's doing nowadays, that you could say, hey, that's Tessa Thompson, and she's really good. She's a great actress in so many things. And she's not bad here. I mean, she's only in probably 2 or 3 scenes as well. But she's the friend, you know. She's just the girl that Camilla Bell has to talk to and vent to and call later on. And that's it. And I was almost sitting there wondering, why wasn't Tessa Thompson cast as the main character? She could have done such a much better job in this role. I think we all know why Tessa Thompson's not the lead in this movie, especially a mid-2000s horror film. It's not too hard to figure out why the studio would rather cast a better actress than Tessa Thompson as the sidekick as opposed to being the lead. Now, the voice of the stalker, killer, whatever you want to call him, I guess it's voiced by Lance Henriksen. Lance Henriksen doesn't do the physical, like, body of the person going around doing stuff. He just does the voice. And I couldn't believe when I read that Lance Henriksen does the voice, because you would not know. You would not know. They don't take advantage of having this guy as the voice. He could have done some sick and twisted, said some perverted things, or just really had fun with it, create a personality, been creepy. I'm not saying go full ghost face scream mode with the phone calls, but with how many times that the phone rings and how many times that this girl is answering the phone and just nothing happens, most of the time he's silent, it's a waste. It's an absolute waste, and it's PG-13, so I know you probably couldn't go full hardcore with it, but it being PG-13, it's so neutered, it's so sanitized, there's nothing horrific, there's nothing scary about this movie at all. I was bored out of my mind watching this girl walk around this ginormous house, by the way. Maybe it doesn't help that she's babysitting a house that is a house that I would never live in, because I could never afford to live in a house like this. How do you expect people watching this movie to relate to being in a house like this, or even babysitting in a house like this, to, you know, relate to the environment, relate to that situation? It's so out there. It's so, oh, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's at this lake, and of course she gets bad reception every single time she tries to make a phone call. Of course. And oh yes, even though this movie is a remake, even though this movie came out in the mid-2000s, I counted at least 4 times when a black cat would come out of nowhere and screech and meow and make noise to try to scare you. There was so much not going on in this movie that they used the trope of the black cat. Also, there's one moment when Jill calls the cops, and I didn't recognize his voice, but when you see him later on in the movie, the cop is played by this guy David Dumman, and I've recognized him. I mean, he was in The Office, and he's been in a bunch of stuff, but I just watched and reviewed Shudder. So I don't know if I posted this review before or after that, but he was in Shudder. Another shitty, horrible horror film within a couple years of this movie. He too needs to fire his agent. Why is he consistently, now I guess, in a bunch of bad horror shit? What are you doing, dude? And I guess the last thing that I should mention is that I remember when this movie came out, and I remember the trailer for this movie. And I remember the trailer, because the movie is so dull, because the movie is so boring, because the movie just has nothing interesting going on. They show you in the trailer that the phone calls from the killer are coming from inside the house. It was like this big trailer moment where it's supposed to hook you, intrigue you, shock you, and make you want to watch the movie, which in retrospect, I see why they did it. But it's a dumb thing to do. It's a dumb thing to spoil the biggest twist of your film. This movie, because I already knew the twist, you're sitting there, and maybe that also adds to the bored. Then maybe that also adds to me just knowing that there's nothing suspenseful because I know that the guy's already in the house. But why would you give that away? You know, you're trying to sell it, fine, but what's going to happen when people do go to see the movie and they already know your twist, and so they come out thinking that absolutely sucked? Nothing scary, nothing suspenseful, nothing happens in this garbage ass film. Oh boy, even though I haven't seen the original, this is easily one of the worst remakes I've ever seen, and that's saying a lot. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of When a Stranger Calls? If you've seen the original, let me know how much worse this remake is. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later.
These silent screams became a part of me. I'm moving past that. Please won't you free my soul? Can't hardly breathe in this society. I'm just a madman. Leave misery. Leave misery.